Hey guys, welcome to the Mic Check Podcast. This is your host, T Word, the People's Champ. I am by myself today. I don't have my co-host, Quinton Lilley, but today I just want to drop in for a quick read and talk about something that we like to do here at the Mic Check Podcast, which is go off the beaten path and talk about stories and storylines around sports that may not get as much attention as some of the other things. For example, updates on games and stuff like that. That's not really my forte. I prefer to talk about the stories behind the scenes. And specifically, one thing that's caught my attention is the rise of Jackson State University and their football team specifically, as well as Coach Deion Sanders, aka Coach Prime, and his two young sons who are athletes on the football team, Shadur Sanders at quarterback and Shiloh Sanders at safety slash cornerback. Um, really interesting developments here at Jackson. Number one, Coach Prime's influence over HBCUs overall. And then on top of that, what he's doing for Jackson, Mississippi, as well as the city, excuse me, as well as the school, Jackson State University. So let's start there. First of all, Coach Prime came in. It was kind of sort of out of the blue. Nobody really expected him to take a job with an HBCU, but he gets a job at Jackson State. And it's during COVID at the early stages where he gets hired. So there's no football season in 2020. So he plays a spring 2021 football season. They go 4-3. And by all accounts, he was basically doing live tryouts to determine how he was going to make this team, right? So he was starting to pick and choose his offensive linemen, his defensive linemen, his skill position players. He kind of knew he had sold up because he had kids coming in that had committed to the school once he announced his hire at the university. That being said, Coach Prime went ahead and finished that season, and he got rid of a lot of players. A lot of players left the program because he brought in a different mindset, the I believe mantra, the I love. He really just got everybody to buy in. And those who weren't willing to buy in, he let them go. He gave them the opportunity to walk away and pursue better opportunities, as they say. That being said, the fall semester rolls around and the season starts, and his team goes 11-2. They lose one game to an FBS school, Louisiana Monroe, and then they lose in the Celebration Bowl to South Carolina State, a MEAC school. And that was a surprise loss. This team had gone 11-1 to that point, and everybody just assumed that they would win the Celebration Bowl, which is the SWAC champion versus the MEAC champion, and they did not. Unfortunately, it just wasn't in the cards, and I think it was a really turning point, a really important turning point for the university because the simple fact is it woke them up to realize just because you have probably the most talent in the SWAC or in HBCUs doesn't mean everybody's just going to lay down and let you beat them. And South Carolina State got a much deserved victory. They were the more physical team and they did what they had to do. Moving forward, the new season rolls around. And to this point, the Jackson State Tigers are 10-0, headed to most likely 11-0. They do have to face Alcorn State, which should be a good tough test for them. However, Jackson State is just too loaded. It's one of those teams where you can put your best front line against theirs, and when attrition starts to kick in and guys are tired and you're starting to dig deep into your bench, they go 2 or 3 deep at certain positions that most of the other schools in HBCU and in the FCS at that level, they only go 1 deep. Once they get into their backups, there is a significant drop in quality in terms of the talent, and those teams just can't keep up. And that's why you sometimes see this Jackson State football team do so much better in the second half because attrition when guys are tired, they've just got somebody, they've got fresh legs coming in. They made a commitment to the trenches and really built their offensive defensive lines. And it shows late in games when those guys are coming in and really doing a great job. So again, they're on their way to another SWAC championship. They pretty much got it sold up, the SWAC West. So the next thing for them to do is just take care of business and then head on to the Celebration Bowl. Now, something else I want to talk about, though, is the influence that Coach Prime has had across HBCUs. A lot more NFL caliber coaches and a lot more NFL players or former players that are Hall of Famers by all accounts are starting to look at job opportunities with HBCUs. Why not have a guy who's achieved a high level of success that also looks like the majority of the players come in and have an influence? And the fact that they've done it at the highest level means that you're getting somebody that they can trust that can guide a player and have them buy in and believe that this person knows exactly what it takes to get where I'm trying to go. So that means that's a good thing for me. I've always felt that when you see players that come back that have that ability to transition from player to coach and have that ability to communicate with other players, they tend to do really well as coaches because they've already set a standard for themselves. Not every great player can do it. Some guys, their standard is so high they can never coach. I can't see Peyton Manning or Michael Jordan being a coach, but that's another topic for another day. At the end of it, Coach Prime has been grooming himself to be a coach because he's been coaching his kids for so long and coaching teams of football players for so long. He's good at it. And now you're starting to see that with other coaches going to the HBCU level. And you've got Hugh Jackson, a former NFL head coach. You've got Eddie George, a former NFL player, pretty much a Hall of Famer with the things that he did with the Tennessee Titans and such. So when you start to see guys go back to that level, and there's so many others, I don't want to leave anybody out, but there's just a lot to name. But these guys are coming back and really having an influence. Now, what that means overall for HBCUs is that the profile is being raised. And one thing Coach Prime talked about when he first got there was that they weren't getting visibility, meaning their games weren't on TV. You might get one or two SWAC games a year, one or two HBCU games a year on ESPN, or maybe tucked down deep in the vaults of BET back in the day with the really grainy and gritty presentation. Now you're getting one to two SWAC games or one to two HBCU games a week on ESPN 2 and 3. And sometimes you don't even need ESPN Plus to get these games. So that means that their visibility is raised. And not only are the teams that are playing Jackson State getting time on screen, they're showing games where Jackson State isn't involved. So you're getting even more players. You're getting hundreds of players the opportunity to put down some great tape. I was watching Jackson State against Southern, and while the game wasn't as competitive as you would hope for the most part, I got to see a lot of really good players. They had a nice kick return on Southern, a nice defensive back, a running back, and that's just to say, Florida A&M, they had some really good players, and they opened the season against them. And Coach Prime is giving you the opportunity to see these things by shining that light down on HBCUs. So I think that he's doing a great thing. And overall, I would hope that everybody out there that's watching this episode will go and look up a way to find out how to see Jackson State play football. This is also going to trickle down into the facilities that are there at these other schools as the money comes in, as the boosters are starting to donate money, the alumni are starting to come back and support. This is going to inject more money into HBCUs, which is going to raise the quality of the facilities for the players. And then that's also going to raise the quality of play from those players because they're getting the right medical care and treatment. They're practicing on fields that aren't flooded with water. It's such a ripple effect that he's caused, and he's just the center of it. And he's such a humble person. I'm talking like a fan right now because I am. I'm a big fan of Coach Prime from his playing days. He played cornerback. That's my former position. So I'm really just bought in on what he's doing. And I just love the fact that other people are starting to get on the train. And whether he remains as an HBCU coach or at Jackson State any longer, I don't really worry about that because even though Jackson State may not remain at the same level, their co-conference mates are going to be elevated because he's been there, because those coaches are likely to stay. Hugh Jackson's going to be there for a while. Eddie George is going to be there for a while. You're going to start to see the level of play throughout the conference elevate to where you may get an opportunity to see these teams play some some FBS teams that are going to really have a tough day. You might see more Appalachian State over Michigan's start to come up from these HBCU teams, and I'm here for it. So with that being said, I just want to give kudos to Coach Prime, Jackson State University Tigers, his kids that are playing really well, and also everybody else that's supporting HBCU football and teams at the FCS level. And hopefully we could just see more and more. I'm in the state of Texas. There's quite a few HBCU teams. There's always a classic going on. And even though the bands are the focus there, I love that the sports and the football is becoming the focus. And that's also going to trickle down to the other sports programs within those universities. So this has been a quick read from your boy T Word, the People's Champ. Thank you for tuning in to the Mic Check podcast. Feel free to donate and support the pod. We're $THAMICCHECK12. So that's the Mic Check 12 on Cash App. Don't forget to hit us in the mailbag, the miccheck@gmail.com. We've got the ticker scrolling across the bottom of the screen. So feel free to jot down that information. And don't forget to like, share, follow, comment, do all that good stuff, and let your friends know it's a great new program on the rise, great new podcast coming up. We're here to give you that great sporting news. This is T Word. I'm out. Peace.